Welcome to Voices of Impact, a show where dreams meet action and change makers unite. We are your co-hosts, Brad and Kathy Lambert of KBL Impact Partners. You can find us locally in your city on My Genre Radio FM, Monday through Fridays at 2 p.m. Central. Also, we are televised on Valuable Television Network at 4 p.m. Central and Urban Core Television at 3 p.m. Central. You can find all 100 plus stations on A2 Media under radio and television tabs.
We are so excited to be with you today. Our special guest is Tom Wiley. Tom is the founder and executive director of the December 5th Fund, a nonprofit that brings peace, joy, and practical help to families facing cancer. The mission was born from a single powerful day on December 5th, 2015. During his late wife Laura's battle with cancer, Tom and his family experienced a rare day without pain or appointments. It was a day where cancer took a back seat, and for once, things felt normal. After Laura passed away, Tom turned that day into a movement. What began as one great day has grown into an organization that has helped more than 120 families across Missouri and Illinois. While families enjoy their own version of a great day, volunteers clean, organize, and care for their homes, giving them the gift of time and relief. Inspired by the friends who once showed up to clean his own home during Laura's treatment, Tom built the December 5th Fund around the idea that small acts of service can really create lasting impact. Under his leadership, the December 5th Fund has raised over more than $1.8 million, built a volunteer network over 950 strong, and created unforgettable memories for families during some of the hardest moments of their lives. Tom believes that one great day can change everything, and he's working to make sure more families facing a difficult cancer diagnosis get that chance. When we come back, we will be joined by Tom Wiley.
Tom, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's so great to have you.
Yes.
It is wonderful. Tom, our listeners heard a little bit about your story in the introduction, but in your own words, take us back to that day, December 5th, 2015, and how that day changed your life and inspired what you're doing now.
Oh, that was such a special day. December 5th of 2015, what happened on that day was not normal. It's probably the best way to put it. My late wife Laura had been going through cancer treatment for several years at that point. And by the time December 5th of 2015 came around, she spent a lot of time in bed, because the cancer had metastasized to her bones. So she had a lot of difficulty walking and just kind of getting around. And up until that point, it was working from her bed. It was just not, she was not very mobile is probably the best way to put it. But not on December 5th of 2015. Right around 6 a.m., I saw her getting up, and I thought she was just going to go to the bathroom and then go back to bed. So I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden I didn't wake up for like 2 hours later, which is really uncommon because at that time I was the first one up. I was taking care of the kids, tossing a bowl of cereal in front of them, getting them out to their activities or getting them to school. And I woke up around 8:30, and the first thing I could smell were pancakes. And that's a smell that I had not smelled in a long time. Because let's be honest, I was not cooking. It was cereal, for the kids. Yeah. And I get up, I go out there, and there's Laura in the kitchen cooking pancakes.
Amazing.
Yes. First thing she tells me is how great she feels, how she's pain-free. And for someone that had a lot of difficulty getting out of bed and walking is suddenly telling me that she's pain-free, it was a blessing from God. And I knew right then and there that this day wasn't going to be a normal day for us. It was pretty special. We did something we hadn't done in a long time. Yeah, we sat down and we had a family breakfast together. Like I said, most of those days were me hurrying to get the kids out, and then making sure she could rest or getting her to her doctor's appointments. And we sat down and had breakfast together. And we didn't talk about cancer for once. We just kind of talked about little silly things. And after breakfast, we decided to put up Christmas decorations. And at one point, I was downstairs getting more decorations, and I hear all this noise. And my first reaction was to scream upstairs to tell the kids, "Hey, quiet down!
Right.
Mommy's sleeping." But then I remember Laura was having a good day and a pain-free day. So I walked up there, turned the corner, and right there they were dancing.
Oh.
And
Wow.
yes, I stood there and I just soaked it all in, because I knew that was something that wasn't going to happen again. At the time, I didn't realize that was the last time I was going to watch my children dance with their mother, but it was just truly special. So I just kind of soaked in that small little moment, and just took it for everything it was worth.
Yeah.
And the rest of the day was all these small moments, as we like to call it, the December 5th fun, where we went out to dinner with friends. We saw the lights at Tillis Park. We walked around the mall.
Wow, you actually walked
yes,
around them all.
Yes, and saw Santa Claus, and I still have pictures from that day. It was really beautiful, and unfortunately, we never had a day like that again. The next day, we were supposed to go to the Fox Theater to see a play with the kids. Laura stayed in bed all day. I took the kids, and Laura passed away about a month and a half after that.
Wow. So there was a period of time before December 5th where you were the cook, the housekeeper, the child care provider. I mean, you were pretty much carrying everything.
Yeah, I was the sole provider.
Yeah.
I was making sure the kids were taken care of, but I was also making sure she was taken care of. I was getting her to her appointments, or I was, asking friends, "Hey, can you take her to her doctor's appointment?" It was a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of single parent duties. In the months leading up to that day.
Yeah, and really being that caretaker. So, a single parent as well as being that caretaker. So you had that added responsibility.
Yeah, and it's a lot of stress, and not to like sidetrack a little bit. I talk to a lot of the families that we help these days, particularly the caregivers, they put up a really strong front, because I put up a really strong front too.
It's almost like you have, right?
Yes, and it's that moment when you talk to them and you say, "I bet you cry in the shower a lot," and they're like, "What?" I go, "Look, I used to. I had to be that rock, but I couldn't show it. I had to be strong."
Yeah.
And then once you're vulnerable with these caregivers, they realize that it's okay to be to not have it all together.
Yeah.
And that's when they kind of open up, and that's when they kind of start to trust you, and that's when we end up doing what we do.
That is so beautiful, though, because thinking about that is they probably feel like I'm the only one.
100%.
You know?
It's when a family's going through a cancer treatment or a cancer diagnosis, obviously the person with cancer is the number one priority, and the caregiver has to take on all this stress. The caregiver can't complain, they're not the one with cancer, so sure, you're juggling multiple things, but you can't complain. It's like seeing what your loved one's going through is still nothing compared to what you're going through, but it wears on you every day, like the stress and the burdens and everything you're trying to do, everything you're trying to accomplish for your family, for your job. It starts adding up, and the weight of all that eventually, the cracks start to show. Is probably the best way to put it.
So how did you get through that time?
Friends, the community, and it's the community that helped inspire what we call the second part of the organization of what we end up doing at the December 5th Fund, which I can get into now. Shortly after Laura passed away, thought about that day, thought about how special it was and how we were blessed just to have a day like that. But then I thought about my community of friends who would just show up without me even knowing. And they're like, hey, we're here to clean the house. We're here to do grocery shopping for you. We're going to rake the leaves. And they would show up because, I was trying to put a strong front up and I was like, I can handle all this, but I couldn't. Our house was a mess. But to me, I was like, it's fine. And they would just show up and take care of all those chores for me. And,
That's incredible.
yeah, and that's where I came up with the idea, to send families whose lives are affected by cancer out on a day to do whatever they want. And then while the family's out enjoying their day, we send a team, 30, 40, 50 people.
Wow.
How close have you been able to replicate your own experience with what the December 5th Fund now does for other cancer people?
Yeah, I will say pretty close. Unfortunately, but fortunately, there are some families we help that it does bring back some painful memories because I'll give you an example, and I know the family won't care if I use their name, the Johannes family. Jesse, up until when we gave his family that great day out, had really struggled. His health was rapidly declining, but then he had that surge on that day that we sent his family and friends out, and they just had this beautiful day together of just all these memories, and then he passed away a week later.
Wow.
And those are the days where you're like, oh, wow, this is exactly what we went through, but then there's other families where, they're in the thick of a cancer treatment, but then they get an all clear, and they go about their lives, and which is what you want everybody to
Absolutely.
have to go through. You want everybody in remission. We joke that we hope to be out of business one day because that means there's a cure for cancer.
Right. Wouldn't that be great?
Yes.
Right.
So what kind of support do you provide to the families that are dealing with cancer?
So on top of what we call the Great Day programming, which is where we send them out on a day to do whatever they want, and it's specifically catered towards that family too. So it's like, all-inclusive sporting events, private dining experience at restaurants, whatever they want to do. On top of that, while they're out doing that, we send the volunteers back to their home, and it's usually a surprise. So like maybe one person knows what's going on, so they don't know that we're doing this complete rehab back at the home. And that's the Great Day programming, which is pretty special. But then we also have the Helping Hands support plan, which is after they receive that day, they then get 3 to 6 months of professional support services of weekly laundry, house cleaning, meal prep, childcare, and there's one other one I'm forgetting, but those professional services through businesses all over St. Louis and Madison County.
That's such a blessing because there's so many people too that I think don't have that community. And so you're really bringing that community to them and really surrounding them with that care.
Yeah, when I first kind of came up with this idea, I reached out to people who had loved ones who were going through a cancer diagnosis, and I asked them. I was like, "Hey, how much support did you have from friends?" And they would just tell me none, and then that's kind of where this idea came from.
Wow.
Well, that's incredible, and what you've created. And we're about to take our first break here.
Yes.
Tom, this is such a powerful story.
Thank you.
We're excited that you're here. And we're going to pause now for a short break. This is Voices of Impact, and we will be right back.
Join our Frame Up for Funding program, the 12-week accelerator by KBL Impact Partners. This proven program has helped nonprofits raise millions of new dollars by mastering donor engagement, board development, and funded programs. With only 10 organizations per cohort, you'll get personalized coaching and a clear, achievable funding roadmap to drive success. If you're ready for an explosive 2025, please schedule a meeting with us through our website at kblimpactpartners.com. We'd love to hear from you. Welcome back to Voices of Impact, and with our guest, Tom Wiley. So great again to have you, Tom. So can you walk us through what a typical great day looks like? Like what happens behind the scenes?
Yeah, so while we send a family out to just do, I shouldn't say whatever they want, but within reason, we send a team of volunteers back to their homes. So 30, 40, 50 people.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness, that many?
Yes. And
wow.
We go back to their house and we take care of every single chore that you can imagine, from landscaping to house cleaning to minor rehabs, junk removal, garage reorganizations, whatever we can get done in a 6 to 8 hour time period, we get it done. Yes. And so
that many people can do a lot.
How
Yes.
wonderful. So you have to be really organized.
Big time. And you also have to have a really good group of volunteers. And that is one of the main reasons why the December 5th Fund is so successful, because of our volunteer corps. They are, one, very good at doing what they do. But
And where do they come from?
So website, word of mouth, some of them are like either friends from families we've helped or families that we have helped. So for example, this weekend, we'll be doing a volunteer effort, and I looked at the volunteer list, and I think there's like 5 or 6 people from a family that we had previously helped, which is really awesome.
Oh, that is really awesome. And just to know that it impacted them so much.
Yes.
That, wanting to give back.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. We started with 30 of my closest friends and family on the first family we ever helped. And now we have a volunteer list of like over 950.
What?
Granted, you can't get 950 to volunteer in one day, right. But it certainly makes it a little easier to fill those volunteer efforts.
That just gives me chills.
Are you able to tour the home ahead of time and kind of get a list of, here are the things that we're going to need to take care of, or?
Yes,
yeah,
so
how does that all work?
Yes, so part of our planning process involves a property review.
Okay.
And typically what we do is we get permission, obviously, to go in, and we take pictures of the entire home inside and out, and then we also start taking notes on what needs to be done at that home. And by the time we walk out of that property review, we know exactly how many volunteers it's going to take.
Yeah.
And we already have supplies that we have to buy up in our head.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's been a process, but I feel like we've kind of fine-tuned
like you've got it
now.
down.
Yes.
It sounds like.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, do the volunteers and the family, do they get together and celebrate, or?
So there have been a couple times where the volunteers have been there when the family comes home, but I like to kind of say we're like those little Christmas elves, where we try to get out of there as quickly as possible by around 2-3 p.m. because that's usually when the family comes home. So then when the family arrives, they can see everything we've done at their home, and we're not there. There shouldn't be a trace of trash. Our hauling company has already been there, picked everything up, so the house looks completely different than from when they left it that morning.
Oh my goodness, that is just amazing.
Wow. In our first session, you mentioned the hand support plan.
Yes.
Could you talk a little more about that?
Yes. So the Helping Hand Support Plan, that originated out of what happened was the second family we ever helped. We went to their house and it was actually in really good shape. We were like, well, wait, this kind of puts a monkey wrench in in the idea, and so we're just kind of sitting around and we're like, well, wait, what if we sent a house cleaner there to clean the house every 2 weeks? What if we sent meals from a meal prep service? Yeah. And we're like, oh, this is brilliant, and so we just started thinking about all these different services of things that I would have liked to have used.
Right.
But I had friends who were doing this, and we built that whole program, and now it's either 3 months or 6 months, just depending on the family's needs.
That is so incredible. Can you share a story with us?
About the helping hands or about the
Yeah.
great day or, like all
We would
of
love
it?
to hear all the stories.
Oh man. So, I did speak briefly about, the Johannes family, about that
Yeah.
one. That was definitely truly a special day where, the dad finally had this surge and then was able to enjoy
Yeah.
it. But then another day that kind of stands out is another family where their son, who was 4 at the time, had leukemia, and mom and dad were just run thin, like they were running on fumes. And we built the day, like the early morning was all family activities, but then the evening. We did a quaint little dinner for 2. We got them a room at the Ritz.
Oh my God.
Oh, you did?
And then brunch the following day, and they just truly appreciated just being able to step away, just even for 24 hours,
Yeah.
and just kind of refocus and recenter on each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah, and I can't imagine the feeling and of gratitude that they would have for something like that too.
Yeah, we see that a lot, particularly when these families come back from these great days. Like one, they feel like they can finally breathe.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they finally had a moment to just pause, because
Yeah, it's
it happens a
overwhelming,
lot.
right?
Yes. Yes.
So when the families do return home at the end of the day, are the volunteers there to greet them, and do
No,
they kind
we-
of all
yeah, we are
celebrate
not.
together?
Yes.
Or?
Yeah,
No.
we are not. So we're gone.
Okay.
Occasionally, I'm there. Maybe if like the hauling company's running late, and I'm like, well, I gotta be here. One, I gotta pay them, but 2, I gotta make sure that everything gets swept up properly. But typically, they come home and they just get to enjoy their whole new home. So we had one family 2 years ago where we cleaned up their entire backyard, and then we had a movie visual company
yeah.
come and set up a giant movie screen in the backyard, and then we screened the STL City game for them. And they sent us photos of them just kind of
that just
sitting
gives me
there, just enjoying
chills.
all, just this nice, immaculate, backyard, just kind of enjoying, the I can say the fruits of our labor,
Yeah.
because these volunteers, they put so much time and effort into everything, and they can see immediately the impact they're making with these families.
Well, and that was one of my questions is how are the volunteers really impacted? Like what have they shared?
It's a ripple effect. You help these families. When the volunteers show up Saturday morning, I like to get them emotionally invested into this family.
Sure.
So I give them a little bit of back history about what this family's going through. I talk to them about, they're doing more than just mowing a lawn. They're doing more than
Right.
just cleaning a house.
Yeah.
I talk to them about what this family is going through and the amount of stress they're going through. And I tell them that, this is a lot more than, just house cleaning. You're changing this family's lives. Like this morning, their lives are headed this way. Everything we're going to do today, their lives are going to head that way.
Right.
And it's going to change. It's going to change their outlook on stuff. It's going to
Yeah.
reinvigorate them. It's going to make them at peace. It's going to give them a little less stress in their lives. And when they hear that, they're just supercharged for that entire day. And then they see the before and after photos that we put on Facebook. Like they don't see the before photos. They can kind of see the before when they show up, but they see all these before and after photos, and it just creates this ripple effect from the families to the volunteers, and then they talk about it to people. People want to
Sure.
get involved, and it
Right.
just kind of goes from there.
How, I'm wondering about timing. How do you time this whole process, not knowing when the patient's going to have their supercharged day where they're ready to get up and go out?
I would love to say that every family is, goes off without a hitch as far as timing goes. Because cancer doesn't follow timelines. It doesn't follow schedules. I will say a majority of the families, when they choose a day, we don't have any issues. There are times where we'll get a call that morning or the night before saying, hey, is it okay if we miss, the morning activities?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
There's other times though, like where we've been like a week out and, we've got the full volunteer effort going. And things go downhill pretty quickly. It's
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
the best way to
Yeah.
put it. And you just, you regroup as a team, but then you also, you make
gotta
sure
be
you're
flexible.
Yeah, you make sure you're there for the family. We do pivot a lot. Is probably the best way to put it.
I was going to say, you probably have to be very flexible.
Yes, and we're upfront with our families too when we're in the planning session. We say, look, you have to be 100% transparent with us
Yeah.
during the entire process,
Yeah.
and because we can take a barbecue at a park and we can bring that barbecue to your house.
Right.
We might rent out a video arcade, but we can bring that arcade to your home. So we've adapted.
Yeah. Real quick before we go to break, how many families have you served so far?
I'll have to check, but I think we're over at 120.
Wow. In what period of time?
Since roughly December 17th of 2016 was our first family.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, we are going to pause now for a short break, and we are Voices of Impact, and we'll be right back.
Hey, nonprofit leaders, Brad and I know that your time is valuable, and so is the work that you do. That's why we've created mini courses for nonprofit organizations that get straight to the point.
That's right. Each of our mini courses takes 30 minutes or less and dives into topics like building your budget, creating a fund development plan, writing successful grant applications, and having meaningful donor conversations. Perfect for busy leaders who want real results fast.
So head over to kblimpactpartners.com to learn more.
Start making a bigger impact and raising more money today. Welcome back to Voices of Impact, and our guest today, Tom Wiley. Tom, what has surprised you the most about leading this organization?
Well, one of the things is the volunteers. Just the amount of effort they put into these volunteer days, but then like their skill sets. There's a lot of times where we have these days and there's a task where we're not 100% confident on, and we're like, man, I don't know, we might want to scratch it. But then we have these volunteers that just come out of the woodworks, I guess is probably the best way to say, and they're like, oh yeah, I know exactly how to do this, and that's it's really the volunteers, but then also it's how people have connected to the story of December 5th.
Right.
At the time when that was happening with my family, I knew it was special, but I didn't know that it was going to turn into this. And then I didn't realize how much it was going to resonate with other families, with other people who were going through the similar situation.
I think God always has a way of doing that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And bringing it all together.
Yes.
So I know that there's, with our audience, a lot of individuals are probably thinking, well, how can I get a hold of them? And I'm sure they have a lot of questions, whether it's volunteering, maybe they have family members. And so what is the best way for people to reach out to you?
Through our website at december5th.org, there's a nominate there's a nominate tab that you can fill out, and there's some criteria on there that you do.
And is that to nominate a family?
Yes, that's to nominate a family.
Oh, so people can nominate a family.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know really how that process
Yeah,
works.
so it says, I think it even says it there, nominate a family.
Yeah.
And so there's just a quick little questionnaire on there, and then it'll get emailed to the team, and then you get sent back an assessment form, which is like 4 pages, and then they fill that out even more, and then we review that. But then you can also go to our website to just learn more about the story. You can donate, obviously. Also we have a monthly donate program as well that people can sign up for. So it's really our website, but then social media on Facebook. That's where you can see all the before and after photos.
Yeah.
Because some of these houses are in a reasonable amount of disarray, And once the volunteers go in there and, you know, rehab everything, it's pretty amazing, some of these homes, what they look like afterwards.
So is that on Instagram?
It's also on Instagram, but we have, like, if you go to Facebook and go to our albums,
okay.
we document the entire day. So this weekend, we will document the entire day, and there'll be like 120, 130 photos uploaded to that album, just of all the volunteers doing their work, and then all the before and after photos, and then anything else that we tend to do that day. If something silly happens, you know, we have one board member that we just have him carry around a lamp. You know, and just get a photo of it every now and then, because we had one volunteer effort where he carried around a lamp for an hour and we don't know why. So, and now we make sure we throw in a photo of him just carrying some inanimate object.
I love it.
For every photo.
I love it. So I just have another quick question. So from your website, is that how people sign up to volunteer as well?
Yes.
Or is that a different way?
Very important. Yes. So there's also a volunteer tab as well. And once you sign up for that, it'll get emailed to us, and then you'll actually get back an email that kind of outlines what a typical day looks like and what to expect. And then also some other stuff like, hey, if you don't hear from us, you didn't get kicked off the volunteer list. It just means we don't have a volunteer effort this month, or you know, like the colder months, you know, it's tough for us to do outdoor volunteer stuff. So like December, January, February, most of the stuff we do is either indoors or just what we call experience only.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I'm assuming that the large group of volunteers that you have are really your ambassadors out in the community that spread the word and probably help a lot of families find you.
Yes.
That may not find you on social media or your website.
Yeah, so after every volunteer effort, we thank the volunteers, but we just ask them to, you know, share the Facebook album, to talk about us on social media, talk about us, you know, at your company, you know, because obviously corporate sponsorships are huge for us too.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, like, are you partnering with any companies, or? Because I would think this would be a great opportunity to partner with companies.
So we have sponsorship packets, and companies can come to us and they can sponsor an entire day, where they also get early access to a volunteer event, and where they can just have their team there for the entire day as well. You know, which we have a handful of you know, companies that take advantage of that. But then they can also like sponsor half a day, or they can just sponsor the lunch portion. You know, because it can be expensive to feed 40 people, you know, breakfast and lunch, you know, so yeah, there's quite a bit. And with our corporate sponsors, you know, like it's one of those things that really does resonate with everybody, you know, because unfortunately we all know someone who
we're all touched by it,
who's been diagnosed with cancer. And the fact that through our volunteer opportunities that you can go immediately into a family's home and make a immediate impact speaks volumes. And then also you can bring your entire team in there too, and you know, it's a great team building exercise and all that. But you know, it just it resonates with so many, you know, people and companies and, you know, individuals.
Now, do you also, and I think you said this earlier, I just want to clarify it, you also arrange all the activities for the family for their day away?
Yes. So during the planning process, what we do is we have an initial meeting either with a family member or a representative of that family. And we find out everything that this family enjoys to do. We also find out restrictions, any sort of, you know, dietary restrictions or mobility issues, you know. And from there, after we do our property review, we have a planning session. And that's where we start to map out the day. So we look at our notes and go, okay, this family loves this restaurant, they love the blues, and they're also foodies. So we start planning, and we reach out to, a lot of times sometimes it's like, I shouldn't say a lot of times, sometimes it's the same vendors over and over again. And it's not because we're lazy, but it's because they understand us, but they're so easy to work with. You know, like we've called some companies or restaurants or organizations, and they're like, nah, we can't help you. And you're like, okay, well, I guess we'll move on to the next one. So yeah, we plan out this entire day, and then what we do is we send out an offer letter to the representative or the family, and it's kind of a high level of, this is what we plan to do for you and your family, the experiences, and then this is all the support we plan to give you back at the home. And then they sign off on that, And then that's when we officially start locking everything in, like financially and verbally, with all the different companies and volunteers.
This is just so incredible.
So a lot of planning.
Well, and
ton
the
of planning.
A lot of
process.
planning.
I mean, you've really put together a process, right?
Yes, yeah.
And so I'm just thinking about our audience again, because we have a vast audience from
Yes.
all across many different cities. And so if someone wanted to, replicate this or saying, we
Mm-hmm.
want this in our city, would that be possible, or do you replicate this yet?
It would be possible, and that's one of the things that we're working on right now is expanding. We have a plan, but as you can imagine, it's expensive.
Yeah.
It's not cheap to do these experiences and then buy all the supplies and everything. So when you add on a layer of putting this into another city or somewhere 2, 3, 4, 5 hours away, it essentially almost doubles your budget. But we have a whole process manual on how someone could specifically do this.
So you could almost
in
do
their city.
like a December 5th in a box.
Yes, absolutely.
And
yes.
I'm assuming you're able to offset a lot of that expense or some of that expense through community support and corporate support.
Yes.
Maybe a restaurant will give you dinner for 3 or 4 or whatever.
Yes, they will. They'll discount the meal, or we'll have venues that will just donate the entire experience.
Yeah.
And obviously, we love that.
Sure.
But like those times that you don't get the donation, your budget suddenly you're pretty close to maxing out your budget.
Yeah.
Because it can, like I said, it can be really expensive for these days.
Right. Well, I just think this is fascinating.
Do you have kind of a waiting list
Yeah.
right now of families that have contacted you and want to go through the experience?
So right now we're lucky that we don't have a waiting list. We have enough families in the queue that the way they're going to kind of fall in line is, it just kind of fills up the rest of our year.
Sure.
I would love to have a waiting list to an extent,
Yeah.
but also I think our operating budget needs to be a lot more to have a waiting list.
Yeah.
As word gets out,
Yes,
as to what you're doing,
we
the
did-
interest will grow as well as support.
Yeah, so 3 years ago, we helped 4 families in 1 month.
In 1 month?
With volunteer efforts as well. And
Oh my goodness.
that put the organization at a tremendous cash strain is probably the best way to put it.
Right.
And I love that we helped that many families, because it was
Right.
like, yeah, we could do 4 in a month.
Yeah.
But if we kept doing that, I don't think we'd have enough funding to do 4.
Right.
So that's why it's so important through corporate sponsorships and through people to continue to.
So really have diversified your funding,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Which I would really like to get into talking more about.
Yeah.
Just even your journey of coming from the corporate world and your own business and into nonprofit.
Yeah, it's it's been a ride. So I was in advertising and marketing for 20 plus years, serving as creative director and a brand strategist, and that's what I knew. I knew how to develop brands. I knew how to get people to buy products and stuff like that.
Hold that thought.
Yes.
Yes, I was just going to say the
sure.
same thing. We're going to get into this after we're taking a short break. We are Voices of Impact, and we'll be right back with Tom Wiley. Nonprofit leaders, do you want expert insights to grow your impact? Subscribe today to the KBL Impact Partners YouTube channel. You will receive powerful fundraising strategies, leadership tips, and exclusive content from Voices of Impact, the show that spotlights changemakers just like you. Don't miss an episode. Get the tools, inspiration, and the expert advice to raise more and do more for your mission. Subscribe now at youtube.com/@KBL Impact Partners and start transforming your nonprofit today. Welcome back to Voices of Impact and our guest, Tom Wiley, with the organization December 5th. So, Tom, Coming from the corporate world and going into nonprofit, what was that like?
It was, I mean, it was definitely a shift, you know, like being in advertising and marketing for 20 plus years, you know, working for agencies, having my own agency, also working at the corporate level, you know, as a brand strategist and, you know, creative director. You know, it was different. It's probably the best way to put it. You know, when someone wants to start a nonprofit, you know, they're starting it because, you know, something happened in their lives and they, you know, they have this noble cause, but there's so much more involved. And I think, you know, being from the corporate side and also having my own business really kind of helped me.
Yeah.
You know, because someone said later on, probably like 6-7 months after I'd started the organization, that I don't run it like a nonprofit, I run it like a business, because you have to, you know, there are times like definitely where your heart is, you know, is at the forefront, but you also have to remember that, you know, there's budgets, you know, there's revenue numbers you have to hit.
And you want to have and you know, I think the misnomer is that when you're a nonprofit, you don't want to have profit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But you do want to have profit, right?
Yes.
It's social profit. It goes back into doing your mission.
Yes, absolutely. And that's really what's important is your, I was gonna say your profit comes from you know, knowing how many people you help, you know, how many families you're serving, you know, getting corporations involved, getting individuals involved, you know, and seeing the impact you make in the community. You know, that's really where I think how you measure success in a nonprofit. You know, because, you know, we're not making money. You know, that's why it's called that's why it's called a nonprofit.
We talk about the social return on investment, and that's what you're describing.
Yes, yeah, in which you know, now that we've learned about that in your workshop, you know, it's a good tool for us now, for me also to speak to our donors and to our corporate sponsors as well, to let them know and show them, you know, how far their dollar's going when they invest in the December 5th.
Right, you can really show the impact.
Yes, yes.
And of the work that you're doing, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So one of the things you mentioned to us before we started today is you shared about how you had a conversation with your pastor and shared with him about the story of December 5th.
Yeah, that was, so it was, man, a couple days after Laura had passed away. He had called me, and he was getting ready for the, you know, the memorial service, and he goes, look, I already know you guys. Just tell me a story. You know, did you go on a vacation? You know, he's like, I need something just you know, kind of lighten the mood. And I paused and I was like, you know what? We had this really cool day back in December. It was at the beginning of December, and I told the whole story.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where it just kind of, I just walked him through the entire day of everything that happened. And after I was done, he was quiet. And at first I was like, did he hang up on me? You know? And he just goes, wow. He goes, Tom, whatever you do, write all of that down. He's like, I don't know what you're going to do with that or what it means. He's like, but that is really special. He goes, even if you just need to tell your grandparents or grandkids when they're, you know, when they're older, just to tell them that story. He's like, that is just a truly special day and an act of God. And he's like, don't forget that.
Right.
And I never did after that day, after that conversation happened too. And it just kind of stuck with me. And then that's when I kind of started formulating this idea. And then I reached out to 5 of my closest friends, told them this idea. I was waiting for them to go, that's kind of crazy. I don't think that's going to work. But they were all like, there's something there. Like, yeah. And those people ended up serving as my original board members.
That's beautiful.
So the fire was lit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
It is absolutely beautiful. And it's a step of faith.
Yes.
A step of faith.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time step of faith. And just having to trust the process all along the way. And you've done such a beautiful job. And you've been doing this, for 15 years?
9 years.
9 years.
9 years.
Okay, 15 years ago was your December 5th
Yes.
day.
December 5th of 2015 was.
Of 2015, sorry.
So what about this work brings you joy, and how do you manage those hard days? I mean, does each experience sort of cause you to reflect back on your own experience, or how do you manage that emotionally?
Initially, when we were helping these families, I would get really emotionally invested in these days, and it would take a toll on me, like a day or two after we'd do this, and I realized that, you know, I need to find that right balance where I'm invested enough to where every family gets my best effort, but not enough to where it pays a toll on my emotional health. And, you know, ultimately, it was my faith that got me through the tough times and the good times. You know, I see it every volunteer day when, you know, I see God in these small little moments. You know, when a volunteer who has that skill set to complete a task that you struggled with leading up to that day of how we're going to complete it, and suddenly they can do it right then and there, you're like, holy cow.
It's like these miracles.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
God always shows up.
See that a lot. And you see it when a father who is clearly at the end of his life here, suddenly get this surge, and he's able to create all these memories for his family that they still hold near and dear to this day. You know, because then he passes away a week later. You know, you see that too. So it's, you know, it's my faith and just seeing, you know, God in all these small little moments.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. So I'm imagining that there's a lot of individuals in the audience that are probably thinking, okay, how can I continue on? Like, what is it? What advice do you have for people that, you know, you have those days? I mean, I know Brad and I had those days of like, I can't do this anymore, but then you do. And what advice would you give to someone?
I think one of the most important things, which I still have to remind myself quite often, is not to keep it bottled up, and not to try to take it all on and try to solve it yourself. Right. Ask for help, or talk to someone. You know, tell them what you're struggling with, whether it's, you know, something, you know, from an operational standpoint from the organization, or just something from a mental health, you know, perspective, and just talk to them and ask for help. Be vulnerable. You know, it's okay to not know how to do something. It's okay not to have all your ducks in a row. You know, and I found that when you start asking for help, one, you can find a solution pretty quickly, but also it relieves a lot of stress on you, emotionally and physically.
Sure.
Right.
I know you say you primarily serve families in Missouri and Illinois. Is this mostly in the metro area, or will you go a certain distance, or do you try to keep it close because of the travel of the volunteers? Or
yeah, it's kind of all of the above. So we do have like a radius, like, so when you go on our website and go to the nominate tab, there's a radius in there, and it extends down into Jefferson County, like Festus, and then it extends out St. Charles County and probably like Warrenton. North it goes up to like Godfrey, Illinois, and then east it probably goes to I'd probably say like Troy, Illinois. You know, because once you get out of that range, you get away from like how we can get supplies.
Sure.
You know, we did have rural areas that we've worked with, and that's difficult when you don't have how to get the right supplies there.
Yeah.
Well, we're almost running out of time, so I want to make sure. One thing is, what is the future? You can just share just really quickly with us. What's the future of December 5th? What do you see?
I think we've kind of touched on that. You know, I would love to do this outside of St. Louis. You know, and like I said, we've got the plan. It's going to take a decent amount of money, and it's going to take individuals and corporations who believe in us to say, you know what, we want to see you do this in Kansas City.
And what is your website? What is your website? So if people are listening or watching and would like to get a hold of you.
December5th.org, and that's the month, and then the number 5, th.org.
Wonderful.
Beautiful. Real quick, any upcoming fundraisers or special events to share?
So we do have a volunteer effort this Saturday, which is almost completely full. And then we have a golf tournament October 13th.
Okay.
Okay, October 13th.
Yes.
Reach out to Tom Wiley on his website at December 5th.
Okay, well, I think we're out of time. Tom, this has been awesome. Thank you for coming on
Yes,
today,
thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
sharing your
been a
story and the impact that you're having on families that are dealing with trauma. We wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I think December 5th Fund is going to be everywhere in the future. So thanks again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. And we are Voices of Impact, and we look forward to seeing you again in our next show.
Are you a nonprofit leader awake at night worrying about your organization's future? You're not alone. Did you know a staggering 30% of nonprofits don't survive past 10 years? Often it's a simple reality. No money, no mission.
There is hope. At KBL Impact Partners, we understand the value of every dollar and every donor. Did you know 58% of donors are willing to give more if they know the impact of their donation?
That's why we've created Frame Up for Funding, our exclusive 12-week program designed to empower nonprofit leaders just like you. Learn how you can effectively communicate with donors and funders, demonstrating the lasting impact of their investments.
Visit kblimpactpartners.com today and schedule your complimentary consultation. Together, let's make your mission possible.
Thank you for joining us on today's enlightening episode of Voices of Impact. Remember, each one of you has a power to make a difference in this world.
With the KBL Impact Partners team of over 75 years of experience in the nonprofit and corporate sectors, we are with you on this journey. We stand ready as more than advisors. We are partners and mentors committed to your vision for a better tomorrow. It's about creating solutions that resonate with your unique mission, with a dedication to personalized attention that brings out the very best in your organization.
And if you're ready to take your organization to the next level, visit kblimpactpartners.com and schedule your complimentary consultation. Ignite your impact, amplify your vision, and elevate your mission to lead the social movement.
This is Voices of Impact with KBL Impact Partners, where your mission fuels our dedication to social impact. Until next time, let's continue to be the inspiring voice of change in our communities and beyond.